Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra Tutorials channel. I'm your host today, well, the only host on this channel, Larry the Chupacabra, and today we're talking about another piece of recording software. We're going to go over basic setup and like how the settings work for Bandicam, which is a handy little piece of recording software that, like AMD's Raptor or NVIDIA Shadowplay, it does a really nice job of recording footage directly from your graphics card so that it keeps most of the load off of your system so that you can put more of that into making your videos and your games look snazzy and fancy and stuff. It's not free, however, like either of those other two programs. It's $40, but personally, like, I think if I wasn't using a capture card to do most of my recording, this would probably be my primary backup, followed by, like, I don't know, XSplit, or maybe DxTory. So jumping right in here, we'll just start out on the General tab where you have all of your primary settings. So right up here at the top, you got a couple of buttons. You've got what looks like a little game controller. It's a little game controller icon. Then you've also got this little square. And these are your two primary methods of recording stuff on your PC using Bandicam. The first one is a games capture setting that allows you to capture directly from any game running off of, like, you know, DirectX or Java or OpenGL or what have you. And then this other one here, when you click it, oh look, we got this big fancy box thing. This would be the setting that you use if you wanted to record your desktop or anything going on in the background so that you could make, say, your own fancy tutorials, just like your pal Larry. We're going to mostly focus today on the game recording side of things, but I will briefly go over how to handle recording your desktop. So, aside from all this stuff, we'll talk about how to start recording your game in a minute. You just got some basic settings down here under the General tab, like the Output folder where you want Bandicam to save out all of your files. I've got a secondary hard drive that I save out like all of my games and all of my videos on because this computer came with like a 500 gig hard drive, so I got a 2 terabyte one to put stuff on, so I switched it to there. By default, I think it puts it in your My Documents folder under whatever user that you prefer to use when you're plugged into your PC. Otherwise, you've got some standard functional utility settings like, you know, make sure the Bandicam window always stays on top of everything, start Bandicam minimized to the systems tray, run Bandicam on Windows startup. If you want to use some of that stuff, it's completely up to you. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. And then you've also got this stuff down here, auto start recording, so you can set it up so that when you start full screen recording on Bandicam startup, so you just turn that sucker on and it just goes. Or you can set it up so it sets a timer for auto start for your recording so that, like, you know, in so many minutes, like, let's say I'm getting prepared to do like a time lapse, and in about 30 minutes I'll want it to start so that I can start chitter-chattering about all the stuff I'm doing, because it's super cool and artsy. I have done a time lapse before. It works pretty well. But that's all pretty basic. We'll go over this autocomplete business probably near the end of the tutorial. So after that, we're going to pop into the frame rate tab, the FPS tab. This is where you've got all of your fancy Bandicam overlays, so that when you're in-game, when Bandicam is turned on and you load into your game, you can have like a frame rate counter that'll appear in whatever corner of your desktop you want it to. Like, you can have it in the upper left or the upper right or the lower left. Can't really put it in the middle though, and that's probably a good thing. You wouldn't really want a frame rate counter cluttering things up. Personally, my computer runs pretty spiffy, so I don't really worry about the frame rate manager. You can also have it so that you have a hotkey to enable the frame rate counter here, which you can then select and change by pressing like a button. Like, let's say I want it to be the tilde key, then it would be the tilde key after I click it. but I'm going to leave that turned off. And then you've also got a frame rate limiter down here that will limit your frame rate in games and stuff to like 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, 30 frames per second, whatever the heck you want. And only, I would suggest if you do use this, only have that happen while you're capturing video. Otherwise, your game will look a little bit poopy to you when you're trying to get to that point where you're ready to record and capture like your fancy montage. Like, I don't know, maybe you guys are crazy good at the headshots, or I don't know, running around fondling squid monsters in space. I don't judge, man. It's your choice, whatever. Play your games. I don't really use this, but if you have a computer that doesn't run all that well, sometimes limiting the frame rate while you record will slightly reduce the drag on your system. But generally, if you can get more than 60, it's just nice to have when you're recording. Next up, we'll hop down to the video section. This is the primary bread and butter section for all of your Bandicam recording needs. And there's a whole there's a boatload, like a metric crap ton of stuff in here. So this is probably the part that you might need to go back over a second time if anything's confusing. And if some of this stuff sounds weird to you or you don't quite understand it, feel free to pop a comment down there and I'll see about clarifying some points for you if you need. So this is pretty straightforward. You can set a stop-start hotkey. The default is F12. You can also set a pause hotkey so that when you're in the middle of recording, like you got to take a bathroom break real fast and you don't want to have to edit out a giant dead spot in your video, you can just hit Shift F12 or whatever you set it to. Maybe you want like F9 or something. Then it'll pause your video. You can go take your tinkle or maybe go grab a cup of coffee and you can come back and be like, yeah, let's do the stuff with the things. For the most part, I think you really just want the stop recording button, but I don't know you. I don't know what you're doing with your video recorder, so I'll show you how everything works. After that, we've got show mouse cursor. Now, why, Larry, would I want to show people my mouse cursor in a game? Wouldn't that look ugly? Well, not all the time. Think about some of the games where knowing where a mouse cursor would be important for the user. Like, let's say you're playing Grey Goo or StarCraft 2 or some other type of real-time strategy game, maybe Civilization, which is like a turn-based strategy game. People want to know where your mouse is because as you're describing the stuff that you're doing, it would be really helpful to see like where you're doing it on the screen until like something flashes. And the best way to tell people what you're doing is by seeing your mouse. Now, would that look kind of bad in like a shooter game like Call of Duty? Oh yeah. So this is something that you need to pay attention to and be like, do I need my mouse? Do I need to turn it off? Just keep that in mind whenever you're recording. Sometimes it's important to see it. For the most part though, you can probably leave that turned off. Now, what is this mouse clicks thing, Larry? This sounds fancy. Well, when you're clicking on stuff or when you're doing a tutorial, sometimes it's really nice when people can see like the mouse change a color in case they can't hear you making a click so that they know when you clicked on something, like say in Photoshop. In Photoshop, knowing when somebody clicks to move something, to transform it, to change its shape, to make it look like with a cool new effect, knowing exactly when they click can really help people. And you can add cute little text effects like changing colors and stuff inside the Bandicam settings so that you don't have to like edit in cool little effects yourself. It's not very robust, but it works okay. And then after that, do you want to have a webcam overlay inside of your game? So before we jump in here and talk about video recording formats, let's talk about this scary button right here. The Recording Settings tab. Oh my goodness, look at all of this crazy shenanigans. Oh gosh, Larry, what do I do? Well, we'll walk you through it. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So, for the first thing here is, you're probably going to want to make sure that you've got sound inside of your game, so that I can hear all of the lasers firing, all the explosions, all the little cute cherub creatures getting trampled under tank treads, whatever game you're playing, you want to make sure that your sound is enabled in here and that your primary sound device is set to whatever you hear your game sounds on. If I was using my game sounds through my computer, I would set it to my Logitech headset, which is my backup microphone. But right now, I'm using the Elgato to record stuff, or to record video, to my other computer, my Mac. So I would set it to my Elgato capture card, the AMD high-definition audio device. Whatever you hear your sound through is the device that you want to select for your primary audio device. And then you can jump into settings, and if you have more than one device, find the primary audio device in this big honking list of things, and then if there's some stuff down here that isn't in use right now, the easiest thing to do to prevent a conflict from happening is to just find it and disable it in this big list of playback devices so that the only one currently in use is your primary audio device. What is this window that just popped up? The window that pops up when you click on this settings button right next to your primary sound device is the Windows Sound Manager window. You can reach this window by going down into the system tray in the lower right hand of your desktop and right-clicking on the little sound icon and saying, show me my playback devices or my recording devices, and that will open up this window. So we'll just hit OK. Now I've disabled those extra devices. And now what's going on down here with this secondary sound device? Is this like a backup recording device? No, oddly enough, this is actually your microphone. The secondary audio device is what handles your microphone input. Now, Bandicam discourages you from using it to record your microphone, citing issues of quality and clarity. But frankly, for 90% of people who aren't in like a studio environment, this is going to be perfect for recording your microphone audio alongside your game audio, so you don't need to use a secondary program to record it and then have to sync it back up later. You would just use like, Audacity or something to clean up your audio to make it sound super suave and sexy and stuff. There's not too much to explain here. Just select whatever microphone you're using. On my PC right now, I've got the Logitech microphone attached to my headset, so that's what I would use. And down here, what is all this stuff going on? Well, this button down here, the second tick box, is only record my secondary device, or your microphone, while I am pushing whatever button. And this is basically a push-to-talk key. You only hear your microphone when you're saying something, and if not, it'll just be blank. Why would you want to do this? Wouldn't it be better to just have like a seamless amount of voice going in and out? Sometimes, if you don't know how to use a secondary program to remove background noise, or you have a microphone that picks up all the humming in like your office or your bedroom or wherever you're making your recordings, maybe it's your living room, to mitigate that, you could just use it so that you only hear your voice and the background noise when you press a button, which can slightly improve the general quality of your recordings. It's not ideal, because your voice can get slightly cut off if you don't hit the button at the right time or you don't leave it open long enough. And sometimes it can be hard to remember to use a push-to-talk key if you're not already used to using one on, say, Ventrilo, TeamSpeak, or Skype. But that's what that is, and you can quickly just click this button and change it to like Tab or F or A or S or Tab again, whatever you want. And then what's this two sound mixing thing? Well, if you press this button, this will mix your two audio sources, your microphone and your game audio, together in one big honkin' file. Personally, I would just leave that unticked. What you really want is you want Bandicam to save audio tracks to separate wave recordings when you're recording. That way, should you decide to, go back and fix your microphone audio or send it to a friend or pay someone to clean up your microphone audio, you've got that big fancy uncompressed wave file. You can send it to them, they can clean it up, you can put them back together inside of Premiere or Windows Media Editor, whatever software you want to use to edit your videos, this stuff can be popped right in there and you can get it all nice and fancy. You can be a fancy YouTubey person. Isn't that what you want, to make the YouTube monies? I mean, that's what Lair wants to do. I mean, that's why I'm making all these handy tutorials. I mean, I like to help people, and that's why I started doing them, but that's the end goal. I mean, let's be honest here. This settings button is the exact same as the other one. It just opens up your recording devices list. If there's stuff in here that's other than your primary recording device, just to prevent something weird from happening, just disable it. I leave this headset on, plugged into my PC, because sometimes there's games, because I record on another computer, that people want to talk to you over microphone, so it's just good to have. So, you know, I leave it on, leave it plugged in. It's kind of handy to have. And that's it for sound. Let's jump over to the webcam settings. Larry, I want to be like PewDiePie. I want people to see my beautiful, lush Scandinavian eyebrows as they jubble around on my face. They're Viking eyebrows and they're blonde. What is not to love? I've got eyebrows just like you, Mr. Chupacabra. Well, this is where you handle wherever you want to see your webcam. I don't currently have one plugged into this computer, but these little dots here at the top handle the location of your webcam. You can have it in the middle, you can have it in the middle and the top, at the bottom, the lower left, the lower right. Most of the time people put it either in the top left or the top right. Let's test it in the top right at the size of 25%, no margins. These margins here basically put a space between your webcam video and the sides of the screen when they're watching it on YouTube. I leave it at 0 because having like a weird little gap is just odd to me. I feel like the webcam should be comfortably nestled in the corner for maximum comfort. But let's preview this. I've got some crap here. It'll just show static, but you'll get the idea. Let's preview this. There we go. So this is my webcam. And if you want this to be a little bit bigger, this is a relative size, so I won't recommend a setting to you. But just close this window and fiddle with this video size percentage until your webcam is roughly the size and location that you want it to be. And then, let's say I want like a little bit of margin on that, so that you can see there's a tiny little gap between that black box and the borders of the video. We can even jump that up to like 10%. And then you can see this this margin, left, right, whatever, this increases the gap between the webcam and the sides of my video. Personally, though, I like to keep that at 0 if I was going to do any webcam stuff. And who knows, maybe I will in the future. I tried it a while ago, but I wasn't really happy with my office setup. It's not really the most conducive to good lighting. It makes me look kind of like Dracula. And maybe you're into that, I don't know. I don't judge. So we've got all this stuff. We got add a webcam overlay enabled, so this will all just get recorded straight into the video. It won't be a separate file or anything. What's this down here? Preview webcam on screen only for DirectX 8 or later. This feature, when you either enable it or activate it via a hotkey down here to toggle it, this will let you actually see what your face looks like in the corner of the screen as the game gets recorded, so that you can actually like see your reaction. You can see how your face is lined up in the camera to make sure that it's like not seeing just like your ear or something. So that could be kind of a nice feature. However, I would use the toggle hotkey. I wouldn't just leave this floating up there, because that's weird. Like, seeing yourself as you do stuff makes you oddly self-conscious about your own physical, like how your face looks, like are you having the funny enough reaction? And sometimes it can look a little artificial when people leave that open. So I recommend using the toggle if you want to preview your webcam periodically to make sure your face is centered, so that we can see, like, I don't know, all your freckles and your eyebrows and stuff. So that's the webcam. This other stuff is pretty self-explanatory. You can add like a watermark or a logo overlay that's slightly transparent to your video. Basically works the same way that your webcam does. It's got like the opacity, which is how transparent it is. You've got the margins, the source file on your computer that it's going to write into your video. You can just add one of these on YouTube via a setting, so doing it on your computer is probably unnecessary. And then we've got those mouse effects where you can make it so that as you click or highlight stuff, it'll add colors. You can change what colors. And then over here is like some technical bits for your system. Recording priority. If you don't know what recording priority is, I'm not going to explain it to you because this is a technical thing. This can fuck up your recordings and this can mess with your computer. This basically just means that your computer gives higher priority to recording with Bandicam than to doing other stuff on your system so that your videos look pretty spiffy and they don't lag or anything. This, you can make it like higher, high, or normal. Just leave this default if you don't understand what this is going to do for your computer. After that, we've got for game recording mode. Skip recording while frame is not updated. So, periodically when you play a game, different regions of your game screen will not change. Like you're talking to somebody and you're staring at a wall, nothing's moving. This won't record a fresh frame. It'll just reuse the one it already recorded. It's just a technical thing. It makes Bandicam slightly more efficient. This won't affect the overall quality of your video at all. I would just leave that enabled. And then if you have an older computer that's having some trouble, you can enable enhanced capture mode for older versions of DirectX. However, if you've got a fancy new graphics card, a pretty modern computer, don't enable this. It'll make your computer act all wibbly wobbly, tably, blah, 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 blah. And we don't want any of that shenanigans. So those are your recording settings, your webcam, your audio, and everything. And when you, here, let me open this up. Wait, no, that's not what I wanted. When you open up your folder that everything's recorded in, you'll see here's my like Subnautica test video, and here's the game's audio, and then here's my microphone audio, and these all go together, so that's what that looks like. And they'll be labeled something roughly the same so that you don't get them confused. So let me close that, and then let's back into video. What's all this format stuff? Well, these formats are what are known as video codecs. A video codec is some technical information that sits on your computer that tells your computer how to record a video and what methods to use it, and different codecs are meant for different things. Like some codecs tell your computer to use your graphics card to record a video, some of them use your computer's brain, the CPU, and some of them even use specialty equipment like onboard capture cards in order to record directly off of your own system. So the one that I recommend is the MP4 codec. It's the most efficient and it has the best quality, although its audio quality isn't quite as good as it would be via other video recorders using the same codec, which is weird, but that's whatever. And the alternate is using the AVI video format, which is native to Windows. It's kind of like Microsoft's version of the MOV video file format. It's less compressed, but I found it doesn't perform quite as well on Bandicam as the MP4 video format. So, under video, you can do one of two things. You can leave the video at full size. This will use and record whatever video resolution your game is currently set to. This will allow you to record videos that are slightly larger than 1920 by 1080p, and you can even use this if you've got a really big, expensive, fancy rig to record in 4K video. Otherwise, if you don't really care if you record in a fancy video size or something, or you want to just lock it at a video size, I would suggest locking it at 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720. These are the most common video sizes that YouTube and other video sites that you'd put these videos are comfortable with, and they're also standard television sizes. This is known as a 16 by 9 aspect ratio size. I'm not going to get into too many technical details, but that's what you need to know. What about frame rates, Larry? You know, I'm a part of the PC master race, I'll have you know, and I can't be rubbing my face in glory if I'm using a paltry peasant 30 frames per second? Well, here's the deal that I explain in every tutorial video. If your game is not playing at 60 frames per second, you're not going to be able to record at 60 frames per second. It's just going to record a choppy, weird-looking video. It's going to look funky, and that's not a good thing. All that 60 means is it allows the video to be recorded up to 60 frames per second, but it can record well below that, and it'll look choppy and weird. Just know that ahead of time. If you don't have 60 frames per second, we understand. It happens. No one's going to come with pitchforks to your channel and, try to hang you. All you got to do is just select here and go down to 30 or 29.97. As far as YouTube's concerned, these are both 30 frames per second. 29.97 has more to do with broadcasting, and it's not really important to know why. It just is. Otherwise, you can even go all the way up to 120 frames per second, but you don't really need to, because video sites like YouTube will just throw away those extra frames when they process your video for other people to view. So other than that, what are these codec settings, Larry? Well, depending on your computer, these codecs are going to look different, so I'm going to try and explain them as best as I can. But know that if you don't see the same video codecs that I have, the one on the top of the list is going to be the one that's the most recommended for your system. In my case, it's the H.264 AMD APP codec. Now, what is H.264? You've probably seen that number before. H.264 is the technical term for an MP4 video. That's all it is. So if you see I'm not wording well today. My mouth is a little dry. Let me grab some water here. Much better. If you see H.264 or MPEG-4, those just stand for MP4 video. That's all it is. So don't be confused by weird technical names. That's all it means. So the one up here at the top is the AMD MP4 codec. This means that Bandicam will use my graphics card, my 280X card from AMD, to directly record the video that I see on my monitor. As it's generated, it'll just convert it into a video and save it to my hard drive. The alternative then is to use the H.264 encoder, which uses my computer's CPU. It's less efficient, and it will draw a lot more power on my computer because the CPU is meant to do a lot of different stuff, but it's not really designed exclusively for creating video, whereas your graphics card is. And then the other one is just the basic MP4 video, MPEG-4 codec, which uses software on your computer in order to do the same thing. Just remember, hardware encoding, which uses your CPU or your GPU or your graphics card, is always more efficient because it's basically like the difference between having a computer simulate something or having a machine physically go pick up a rock. That's basically the difference. So I'm going to select AMD. If you've got an NVIDIA system, it'll say something about NVIDIA. If you need more information, there's a whole list of all the available codecs that could possibly appear on your computer on the Bandicam website for free in their technical documents. So down here, audio or quality settings, I wouldn't really mess with this. You shouldn't have to, but if you're seeing a little bit of a performance issue, you can turn it down to something like 70, but that's going to make your video look a little blurry and a little pixely depending on your system, so I would leave your quality at 100. Down here for audio, there's really not a lot to say about MP4. Just select AAC audio. You want your bitrate as high as it'll go for whatever your system has. Leave your channels on stereo. Stereo, if you're not really sure what that's supposed to mean, if you've just seen that on like videos and stuff, stereo means that there's one channel going to your right ear and one channel going to your left ear, so that if a car drives across on screen, it literally sounds like it's driven across in front of you. So other than that, there's mono, which basically makes all the audio sound flat, and it's not nearly as fun. You can't tell where like something's hiding in the corner to your left, and just leave it on stereo. And then frequency, you want it at 48,000. It shouldn't go higher than that, but if it does, just leave it at 48. You don't need more than that. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. You can get more codec information in here, but you really don't need to mess around with these other settings unless somebody from tech support or the forums lets you know. So I guess we can talk about AVI. AVI is pretty... Apparently it doesn't want me to switch to AVI. AVI is pretty similar. I've got more options for codecs that I don't really know much about. But for the most part, use the one at the top. It's the most efficient. Again, mine's the AMD APP. And then the difference down here is MPEG-1 audio is compressed, which means it's smaller. If you have a really big swanky microphone like Larry and you want to get all that uncompressed goodness, then you would select PCM audio. That's an uncompressed audio format. And then you've got stereo again. You can just save this as the original format. That'll just keep the settings similar to whatever the defaults are for your video recording codec. Otherwise, same rules apply. 48,000 for hertz, stereo sound, and you're good to go. But I recommend using MP4, if at all possible. Just because it's better and YouTube likes it more, and it's a smaller file type, it won't bulk up and fill your hard drive as much if you want to edit your video for later. So that's the video stuff. What's under images? Well, this is just your settings for, you know, if you want to take screenshots with Bandicam, make a sound when you take the screenshot so you know it happened, show the mouse cursor in the screenshots, repeat the screen capture every second or so if you hold down the hotkey to make like a clip reel or something. This is all pretty self-explanatory, and if you don't use high quality or normal JPEGs, use a PNG. BMP is a bitmap file. You don't want that. That's kind of like a systems video. Most people probably won't be working in that, and it can be a little confusing if you don't know your way around Photoshop. And there's also information if you click on this button on how to turn this stuff into an animated GIF if you want to just make like little clips to share on Reddit and stuff. Then we've got outputs. This is just a list of all of the files you've created. And if you select one of them and hit edit, it'll just take you to whatever your system's default video editor or photo editor is. Same with your images. I haven't taken any screenshots with Bandicam, so, you know, I don't have anything here. But you can click on any of these and open it so that you can play it. Like, I got some stuff in here from The Legend of Grimrock. I don't even remember recording that. Oh, this was when I was doing the Playclaw stuff. Alright, yeah. Other than that, there's like an About section where you can register your version of Bandicam. I'm using a free version. They're basically the same thing. The only difference is, for the free version, there's the Bandicam logo that appears at the top of the video, and you'll also have a limit of only 10 minutes of gameplay recording or desktop recording before it cuts you off. But this is really inexpensive. It's like $40. It's less than the cost of a brand new game. If you want to use a good recorder, just spend a little money. You'll thank yourself later. Having a good recorder is really important. You don't want to have to re-record shit because you have, like, bad settings on OBS or something. So that's pretty much it. The only other thing here is autocomplete recording. You can set it up so that your videos get automatically chopped up into segments via either a maximum recording time or a maximum file size. And then you can set your computer to do something after you're done recording. You don't really need this. If you have a reason to use this, then maybe that would be a good idea. So let's talk about recording stuff. How do I record, Larry? None of these buttons are doing anything, and they're telling me that I need to, like, select a source. Well, first off, make sure whatever you want to record is up and running in the background before you get started. That's why there's Subnautica open back here. Look at I got my fancy submarine. I've been recording this. We're underwater. There's all sorts of ocean creatures out there that want to eat me. Once you've kind of farted around and played around in the game after you've loaded up Bandicam, then it should appear right here, right underneath of the little icon. If it doesn't, close Bandicam, make sure the game that you want to record is open and running in the background, then turn Bandicam back on, click the game, move around a little bit, tab back out, and this record button should turn red, and you're good to go. You don't actually even need to have a hotkey selected for this. You can just tab out and you can click either like the screenshot button or the pause button if you're in the middle of recording, and you can go from there. So let's hit record, and let's run around and demo this, because I mean, that's what you guys are here for. So we'll hop down here out of the moon pool. We'll look at these rocks that didn't get deleted correctly when I built my base. We'll swim around and we'll catch this fish. Come here, fishy. I want to eat your face, spadefish. Oh, and there's a jelly hole down there. What could possibly be down there? If you want to know, check out Larry's Subnautica series. That's certainly not a well-timed self-plug for my own YouTube gaming channel. Not at all. And then we'll tab back out to Bandicam. We'll hit stop. And then we can go into our list of stuff. And look, there's our Subnautica video. And you can see all the stuff that's happening. And, ignore this black bar. I still have my webcam enabled, but I don't have a webcam turned on. This black box here is where my webcam would appear if it was enabled. I just decided to leave that on so you could see what it looks like. Unfortunately, it's got like a black bar. There we go. The window player, my screen is, I guess, a little bit bigger than 1920 by 1080. I didn't realize that. This is a big monitor. It's weird. But yeah, that's how Bandicam works, for the most part. If you want to play around with the screen recording settings, they're very similar. If you want to change the size of the screen, you just go up here to the corner of this big blue window, and you say, I would like to record the full screen, and then it'll pop into the full size of the screen. You can also record something smaller if it doesn't, like, if you can't maximize a window or something. Like, you really can't maximize Bandicam, so I might zoom in for parts of this video. Or I might not, I don't know yet. You can set it to, like, whatever size, a predetermined size, and then anything that you do in that little window after you start recording, and it'll be locked to that spot on your desktop, will be recorded, and nothing going on in any other part of your screen will. For the most part, though, I think most of you guys and gals and pan-dimensional demon creatures who are trying to start a human harvesting business will probably just want the game capture settings. I mean, that's primarily what Bandicam is for. And it covers a lot of different types of files, like Java and stuff. So you can do stuff like record Minecraft. And hey, if you're looking for a simple, dumbed-down editing software, Bandicam also sells a really cheap editing suite designed for specifically publishing your videos to the cloud, onto YouTube and Vimeo and Facebook, so you can share it with all of the peoples on the social medias. And there's a sale right now. I don't know when you're going to watch this video, so it might not still be on, but it looks like a pretty decent editor. I haven't personally tried it, so I can't vouch for it, but there you go. So that's it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope it was helpful for getting you started using Bandicam. I'm not the most expert guy in using this software. I haven't used it extensively for my own purposes like I have other recorders, so I might not be able to help, but if you have a technical question, feel free to throw it out there. If I can't help you, I'll probably just have to point you towards their tech support, which looks to be pretty decent. And otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe. Be sure to suggest different bits of software and other questions for future tutorials. I mean, a whole reason I made this was another gentleman who was having trouble with his network and needed a new recording software, was curious how to start using Bandicam, and that's why we have this video. So if you don't have something, do the likey, subscribey thing, and maybe check out Larry's gaming channel, where I do game reviews and let's plays and all sorts of shenanigans, and maybe even some more developer interviews. Who knows? Yeah, catch you guys later. Bye!